What makes right and wrong wrong? Is it an inherent truth or a societal construct? This is a question that has puzzled philosophers for ages. The notion of right and wrong, moral and immoral, is a complex labyrinth that weaves through the fabric of our lives. The quest to discern the nature of morality is not a simple one. It is a profound exploration of our values, beliefs and principles. It is a journey into the heart of what it means to be human. We find ourselves entangled in a web of ethical theories, each offering a different perspective. Is morality dictated by fixed principles and duties, as deontology suggests, or is it the consequence of actions and the pursuit of happiness, as touted by utilitarianism? And what of the variations in moral judgments across cultures, religions and individuals? Can we find a universal standard, or is morality a tapestry woven with threads of cultural and individual differences? As we delve into this philosophical journey, we will explore various ethical theories and their perspectives on defining right and wrong. First, let's examine deontology, an ethical theory that stresses duty and adherence to rules. Deontology is a school of ethical thought that proposes a set of fixed moral principles. These principles are viewed as universal, absolute, and independent of consequences. It's like a compass guiding us through life's moral dilemmas, not swayed by the winds of circumstance or personal inclination. This theory's key proponent was the 18th century philosopher Immanuel Kant. Kant believed that morality is a matter of following certain universal and absolute moral laws or duties. He argued that these duties or rules are derived from reason, and to act morally is to do one's duty. For instance, consider the rule, "Do not lie." Deontologists maintain that lying is always morally wrong, regardless of any potential benefits or harm avoidance. Why? Because they view honesty as a fundamental duty. Now you may wonder, what if a lie could save a life? Isn't it moral then? This is where things get a bit tricky. Deontologists would argue that even in this scenario, lying remains morally wrong because the morality of an action is not determined by its consequences. This principle is encapsulated in Kant's categorical imperative, which essentially states that one should act only according to the maxim that they can, at the same time, will to become a universal law. In other words, if everyone lied to save a life, truth-telling would lose its meaning, leading to a breakdown in trust and communication. Deontology presents us with a world where moral truths are not subject to change. They are as unwavering as the laws of physics. Whether you're a king or a peasant, in a bustling city or a desolate desert, the rules remain the same. It's a perspective that brings clarity and consistency to the often murky waters of ethics. However, it also challenges us to contemplate the conundrum of inflexible moral rules in a complex and ever-changing world. Deontology holds that moral truths are objective and fixed, not subject to change based on circumstances or personal beliefs. On the other end of the spectrum lies utilitarianism, a consequentialist theory that focuses on the outcomes of actions. Diving into the principles of utilitarianism, we find that it is fundamentally about consequences and happiness. At its core, utilitarianism posits that the rightness or wrongness of an action is determined by the amount of happiness or unhappiness it produces. This doctrine, championed by philosophers like Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill, argues that the morally right action is the one that maximizes overall happiness. It's about the greatest good for the greatest number. The focus here is not on the action itself, but the outcome it produces. For instance, if telling a white lie would save someone from undue distress, then from a utilitarian perspective, that lie could be considered morally right. The lie, in this case, results in a net increase in happiness, which is the ultimate goal of utilitarianism. But it's not as simplistic as it sounds. The challenge in utilitarianism lies in accurately predicting the consequences of actions and calculating happiness. How do we measure happiness? How do we account for the different ways in which individuals experience joy or sorrow? Moreover, utilitarianism often wrestles with the issue of justice. What if an action results in happiness for the majority, but at the expense of a minority? Is that action still morally right? These are the questions that utilitarianism grapples with and invites us to ponder. Despite its challenges, utilitarianism offers a dynamic approach to ethics. It encourages us to consider the ripple effects of our actions and to strive for outcomes that enhance overall well-being. It prompts us to think beyond a rigid set of rules and to consider the broader impact of our decisions. In contrast to deontology, utilitarianism suggests that the morality of an action is determined by its outcome, not by a set of fixed rules. It's about the result, the end game, the ripple effect. It's about happiness and how we can maximize it through our actions. Steering away from objective moral truths, we encounter moral relativism, which argues that morality is subjective and varies across cultures and individuals. Moral relativism, a provocative concept in the realm of ethics, proposes that moral principles are not universal, but rather they are shaped by cultural and personal perspectives. It suggests that what one perceives as right or wrong is largely influenced by their cultural upbringing and individual experiences. Imagine two individuals from different corners of the globe, one raised in a bustling metropolis, the other in a remote village. Their moral compasses, shaped by their unique cultural norms and personal experiences, may point to entirely different directions. What's deemed acceptable or praiseworthy in one culture might be frowned upon or even considered immoral in another. This is not to say that any action can be justified under the guise of cultural differences. Moral relativism does not promote moral anarchy. It merely recognizes that our moral judgments are not crafted in a vacuum. They are the product of a complex interplay of societal norms, personal beliefs, and individual experiences. It's also important to remember that moral relativism is not about condoning harmful practices or evading ethical responsibilities. Instead, it encourages us to take a step back and understand that our view of right and wrong is not the only one. It fosters empathy and understanding, urging us to respect the moral perspectives of others, even when they differ from our own. However, this perspective does have its critics. Some argue that moral relativism can lead to a dangerous moral subjectivity where anything can be justified if it aligns with one's personal or cultural belief. Others contend that there must be some moral principles that are universally true, regardless of cultural or individual differences. Moral relativism, therefore, challenges the idea of a universal standard for right and wrong, proposing instead that morality is a product of societal norms and individual beliefs. It invites us to ponder, to question, and to understand that the world of morality might be more complex than we initially thought. The contrasting views of these ethical theories prompt us to consider the nature of morality itself. Is it a human construct or an inherent truth? As we delve deeper into the labyrinth of ethical theories, we encounter two primary perspectives on the nature of morality. The first posits morality as a human construct, an amalgamation of societal norms and individual beliefs. From this perspective, moral principles are not universal truths, but constructs we've created to manage our societies effectively. They are subject to change, evolution, and cultural variation, like a linguistic dialect that varies from region to region. Imagine a world without human beings. Would there be any moral rules? If morality is a human construct, then the answer presumably is no. The concept of theft, for instance, relies on human concepts of ownership and personal property. Without humans, there would be no theft because there would be no concept of ownership to violate. On the other side of the coin, we have the perspective that morality possesses an inherent external foundation, independent of human beliefs and societal norms. Advocates of this view argue for the existence of objective moral truths, akin to mathematical or logical truths. They propose that moral principles are universally valid, regardless of cultural or individual differences. In essence, they argue that even in a world devoid of human beings, moral truths would still exist. The question then arises, how do we ascertain these moral truths? If they're inherent, how do we access them? Some propose intuition, others divine command, and yet others reason and rationality. This exploration leads us to question the very essence of right and wrong. Is there an objective moral reality, or is morality a product of our interpretation and societal evolution? It's a complex question, one that has occupied the minds of philosophers for centuries and will likely continue to do so for many more. As we navigate our lives, we are all participants in this grand philosophical debate, shaping and being shaped by the moral landscape around us. Throughout this philosophical journey, we have explored various ethical theories and their perspectives on right and wrong. We dived into deontology, where the emphasis lies on duty and rules, and the moral weight of an action is determined by its adherence to these principles. We then navigated the waters of utilitarianism, focusing on the consequences and aiming to maximize overall happiness. We grappled with moral relativism, acknowledging the complexities of cultural and individual variations in moral beliefs, raising the question of whether moral judgments are culturally relative or transcend societal norms. And finally, we pondered the very nature of morality, asking whether it is a human construct shaped by societal norms and individual beliefs, or if it carries an inherent external foundation. While we may not have definitive answers, the exploration of these philosophical inquiries challenges us to examine our own moral beliefs and consider the intricate fabric of ethics that shapes our understanding of right and wrong.